Can you see my screen?
Not yet. I watching the shadow screen for you. Yeah, we started already.
Okay, good. So let me start on the first page. I wanted to present how this solar distribution contributes to the role of the solar industry growth in Thailand. And in fact, it's not just Thailand, but it is also a concept that applies to other countries as well. And I'm glad to have this session because it seems like a conclusion of all the different technology and discussion we had earlier as well from different speakers. Um, so let me move to the next slide. There are three topics I wanted to discuss. First is the technology trend within PV. It's just an overview of what has been discussed earlier as well. Second is how this technology impacts the industry and how do we bring this technology to the consumer, to the end user. So that's the three topic, and let me start with the first one. Is the slide moving or seems frozen my side?
It's not moving.
Okay, let me, yeah, so there's,
It's okay now. It's okay now.
okay, sorry about that. So yeah, the first topic is the PV technology trends, an overview of where we are in terms of technology and what has happened over the past. A lot of the people here are pioneers in the solar industry, has been with us for quite some time. And maybe it's good to kind of put a throwback of the technology movement over the past few years. So on the next slide, first I wanted to start with the solar cell technology. For those guys who has been in the solar industry, you probably started with technology of solar cell starting from, I don't know, maybe 250 microns thickness of wafer to where we are now, reaching 180, 160, even 100 microns. And the area of the cell has also increased significantly over the past few years. That is all with a target to increase the capture of energy, capture of sunlight, and convert that to energy. So that change has resulted to increase in one cell efficiency, also resulted to increase in terms of power of the modules. When I started in solar, the power of the module that I first ever installed was, I think, 200 watts, and that was like 10 years ago. And if you look at the power capacity of the modules we are working on now, we are even reaching 540, 550, and soon to 600 watts per panel. This also shows you how technology is driving the LCOE. And this also opens up to certain challenges along the way, because if you look at the module dimension, the module sizes has increased in dimension. That means integration towards mounting structure, towards installation also becomes a challenge. But all these are good because this helps us reduce LCOE. And then maybe I move to the next slide and I talk about another change which we have seen, from 600 volts to 1000 volts. And during the transition, people were saying 1000 volts is not safe. And now we're in a 1500 volt system. The voltage of the system has also increased. Together with that, the requirement for BOS components to adapt to the voltage requirement is also increasing, including adoption of inverters, of other components that goes together with the system. On the right-hand side, you'd also see that the mounting structure has evolved over the past few years. From just being a simple fixed tilt mounting structure to becoming tracker to having different mounting capabilities to optimize installation. Again, this drives LCOE to go down. So it's not just the the mounting structure and the equipments, but also the application has changed over the past few years. You would hear a lot about floating solar application, and governments are putting more incentives on this. Becomes a very lucrative application that solar could look into in the future. And on the right-hand side, there's a lot of discussion about agricultural PV installation as well. So it's not just the equipment, it's not just the technology within the equipment, but the application of solar installation seems to be growing. And on the inverter technology, there's a lot of discussion about module level power electronics as the installation grow, and as we grow installation in terms of CNI and residential application, safety becomes a key requirement. So the demand for having safety modular power electronics becomes high over the past few years. And also the government and even the electrical codes within each country is evolving to adapt to this growth in terms of solar and renewable energy. And then, of course, inverter from the previous inverter technology, which is just being simple power conversion equipment, there has been a lot of changes and technology advancement as well on the inverter side. One to being able to adopt digital integration, to be able to diagnose and do monitoring by themselves. The inverter technology has also changed a lot, which again enables us to be cost competitive. And as the panelist has also discussed earlier, a lot of discussion about energy storage, about how do we adopt policy towards energy storage, about EV charging. So if you look at all these changes, it happened over the span of 10 years. And this is still continuing. The technology advancement within solar is rapidly growing, which helps us to become an industry where resilience is there and improvements and advancement is key for us to grow. These are all good. Of course, technology advancements are good, but however, this also impacts the installers, the market that we are operating in. And how does this technology impact the market? First, if you look at the slide, the first impact is supply chain is not as easy as before. There are more options. It's more complicated in terms of logistics, in terms of which supplier to work with, which technology to work with. Supply chain becomes more complex, and this, of course, is something that the installers and the EPC, the developers, has to adopt. Second is the design integration becomes very complex. The module sizes, for example, increases, it becomes larger, the mounting structure has to adapt. The module suppliers delivers 1500 volt technology, the inverters has to adopt. So the design in integration also becomes complex because the solution is changing differently in a different time frame as well. So the integration becomes complex for installers. Second is you look at the old installations that was completed. What happens to those old products? You wouldn't find any 200 watt modules or the old technology inverters. And that becomes obsolete. What do we do with those old installation? What happens to those warranties? That's a bigger question that we have to also consider along this technology transition that we are experiencing. Second is as the new technology ramps up, there are of course questions in terms of quality. There are any defects that we don't see. The warranty that applies to this, how does that impact financing? As the technology is also growing, cost is not yet stable. We're still advancing towards that. Also, the impact of pandemic becomes a concern in terms of cost, and that, as what we could see now, is a great concern for most projects. Also, the engineers. What we have classically known as solar design may not be the same as solar design with the latest technology. So the understanding and the trainings for the engineers on the EPC side, on the installer side, also has to be updated. The business model has also changed and has to be adopted. The traditional solar always talks about FIT. With all this coming EV, battery storage, and the policy changes, the business model needs to adopt. How do we make it work? Technology is good, but how does that commercially work towards the end consumer? And another last point is the buying structure within the solar industry has also to be adopted. If you look at other regions like Europe, like US, the distribution business for solar has been key for them to really grow distributed generation. In Southeast Asia, we're still very much on the mindset that we have to procure directly with suppliers. That has to change because over the pandemic period, we've also seen the downfall of relying too much directly on one source. And I think having local distributors to support the growth and to make sure that the technology you buy and procure works is key for us to grow in the industry. And that brings me to the last point. How do we bridge all this technology, this advancement that we have towards consumers? I'll skip this. In Baiwa, we are a company who has long history in terms of working in solar and renewable, and we have different businesses that operates within the solar industry. First is projects, operations, and solutions. I'll dwell more in details in terms of solutions and how do we bridge this technology towards the end consumer. So we act as a distributor. We supply equipment to our customers, which are mainly EPCs and installers. What we do is we bring access to technology to them. We bring the latest products to the market so that they can take advantage of it. We also make sure that we support innovation towards our customers, that they are able to take the benefit of the technology that we are bringing. We are a full solution provider. We wanted to make sure that we provide what the installers need to grow their business. Do not focus too much on the supply chain issues, but focus more on building more power plants. Second is we value quality so much, and this is key for us because as a local distributor, what the value we could bring to the end users is you have another local guy to support you in terms of warranty issues, in terms of any technical support, and which that brings me to the customer proactive support that we bring to the market. We have local guys in each country to support the needs of each customer. And most importantly, Baiwa brings a financial capability, a stability that then ensures the customers that you are dealing with someone financially stable. We're not here for the short term, we're here for the long term. And that's key for all businesses to succeed moving forward. We are present in almost all continents in the world. Our regional hub in APAC is in Bangkok, in Thailand. We have operations in Australia, in Philippines, in Vietnam, and also in other parts of Southeast Asia. We bring experience. We wanted to bring our global expertise with a local touch in each country where we are present. In 2020, we sold more than 1.2 gigawatts of modules purely on the distribution side and close to 2 gigawatts of inverters globally, which again highlights the capability of the company. This is our office in Bangkok. We have warehouses as well in Bangkok, both the general warehouse within Thailand and similar approach that we're doing in other countries like Vietnam and Philippines. That's basically ending my 15-minute time slot. Our key goal is to really bring technology access to the market. As Baiwa, that's what we wanted to happen is to enable our customers to build more power plants and bring the benefit of the solar technology to them. And if you have any questions, happy to answer. Otherwise, feel free to contact me for any requirements or support you need, both in Thailand and also in other countries.